Hi Virgo, it's Erin Scott here. Welcome to your September 2019 Alchemy Scope. Thank you for your patience. I've had some technological glitches this month, so there's a delay in getting them up. But we're going to dive into your natural evolutionary process for the month of September. And we're going to dive into three different modalities. This art channeling that you're starting to see emerge here. This is a speeded up video. We're going to look at divination that came through for you, and we're going to look at your astrology, okay? So you can see here that there's a nose that is beginning to be formed here on the left side of the paper. We're going to go through the process of what emerged first, second, third, etc., and then we're going to analyze it. I haven't fully analyzed it yet, by the way. So this is going to be an interpretation as I'm recording the audio for this, because when I'm in the channeling mode, Virgo, there's not interpretation happening. The channeling's happening. So the images are coming through, and it takes observation later to actually go in and look at the symbology. So you can see here that the nose emerged, left side of the page. Now we have this blue-green, kind of a turquoise eye that is also forming here. Eyelashes being defined. And the eye is looking right at you. It's looking right at the camera, right? It's looking straight ahead. It's confronting whatever is being looked at, right? We have the iris being filled in here. And you're good. I don't know if you noticed, but one thing I'll point out, if you look at the top of the page, you have V, I, R, G, and O. When I first started this recording, I wrote out Virgo, but the O was very small, and the O was followed up by little dots. You're going to notice at the top of the eye, there's a little white circle, like a highlight or a spotlight being reflected in that black iris. That's the small O of Virgo. I don't know what that means yet. And here there was this red formation, now a yellow circle, highlighting the tear duct, essentially, of the eye, which we're going to talk about. There was clarity when that was being highlighted or outlined, what that was talking about. So we'll talk about that. But the the red Y or the V formation coming down the nose, interesting. We'll look at that. We have this red, almost warrior mark underneath the eye that's now being formatted. So we have the red under the eye, and then we have the red on the bridge of the nose. Now, the other thing that's interesting, Virgo, that came through here was the grayed white of the eye. Okay, so the white of this person's eye is wanting to be grayed out. So there's something significant to that too that we're going to talk about. Now, importantly, during no other art channeling processes did my cat make any noise. During your filming, my cat was going crazy. He was crying to get out. He needed this, he needed that, he was sneezing, he was coughing, he was having a whole bunch of stuff going on for him during your recording. So it was clear that cat is coming through, and I wrote down, so you can see the top of the cat's head with the ears and the eyes. Next to that it says crying, all right, restless is also coming through here. These are messages for you. This is for the month of September. Sick is also coming through because my cat is sneezing, so he needs to be taken into the vet to clear some sort of an infection that he has going on. Sick, restless, crying. But you can see here, Virgo, that there is this orange eyebrow line, like a line over the eyebrow and then up through the third eye. So Virgo, let's take a look and analyze this, okay? So the first thing out of the box when I was creating this drawing was the nose. Now, the nose is the furthest out projection on the face. The face is your personality. It's your persona. It holds your eyes and your mouth, so how you perceive and how you speak and communicate. So a lot of who you are is about the head. Your brain and your antenna of the brain, how it functions as an antenna, is in your head. Your eyes, how you see and perceive, is in your head. But in this function of the top of your body, the nose sticks out most in front. So if we're looking at a face, which can be the face of the ego, the face of the personality, the face of the persona, the nose sticks out the furthest. So it can represent the ego, okay? Now, the nose is coming up here. It was the first thing out of the gate. And in fact, it's the biggest thing drawn on the page. The eye is also very large, but the nose is significant in size comparatively to this piece of paper, right? So we're talking about the ego here. We're talking about some identity, and the nose also, following our nose, the terminology following our nose, the expression, going where our nose leads us, smelling where we need to go, that kind of thing. So there's an aspect here of where is our ego taking us? That's a narrative here for this month of September. So there is, where is the ego driving us toward? Okay. So after the nose came the eye. Now the eye is large, it's open, it's confronting the viewer. So it's courageous, it's not timid, it's not withdrawing, all right? But there's something else to the eye. There's a certain quality to this particular eye. And this is what I get from this imagery. Now, each of you listening to my voice now and watching this video and tuning into this particular picture and imagery, you will get something else. You'll get another indication of the eye, right? And I want you to pay attention to that, because that is something for you to attend to and listen to and honor your own intuitive interpretations of these artworks. This is for you to honor and listen to, right? But this is what I get from this eye. There's something not quite, there's something about this person here. There's something about the eye being kind of fixated and confronting a topic, or confronting a person, or confronting a reality that is slightly dead, slightly numb, slightly kind of resolute and rigid in its approach and in how it's approaching whatever it is that it's looking at. For all of you, this is going to be a different topic. It could be life in general, that a lot of you are coming from a place of almost soul exhaustion, that you might feel quite tired around certain patterns in the life, etc. And you might be moving forward, being driven by the ego or the persona, some superficial mask that you're putting forward, but it's almost via a numb way of operating, Virgo. Now, is this going to apply to all of you? No, not necessarily. This is a generalized reading for the archetype of Virgo. You're all going to feel this in different ways. There's going to be different nuances, but I want you to hear what I'm saying, okay? Listen to your own intuitive knowing, but please listen to what I'm saying also, because I'm giving you essentially an objective analysis of the imagery here, the symbol. So the eye here looks a little bit numb, a little bit dead, a little bit tired, that it's just holding its strength by sheer will to do so. The other thing that is very important here is that the tear duct is very prominent, number one, in the drawing, but then it ended up being outlined by this yellow line, right? The yellow is like a highlighter, so it's showing that there's a need to pay attention here. Well, the tear duct is indicating there's a need to cry. There's a need to grieve. Dear Virgo, there's a need to release something here. There is some sadness welled up in here that is starting to create a backup. And I think that's part of what we're seeing here, with the white of the eyes actually being grayed out. Black represents the unconscious realm of who you are, the unconsciousness within your psyche, right? Black or gray, because it's not black. The whites of the eye, which is like the clear part of the light part of the eye, literally white of the eye is the light of the eye. Here, there's a little bit of black that was smoked out to become gray. What that represents is there's a certain unconsciousness to maybe how you're perceiving. There's a narrative, there's a wound set, filtering how you're perceiving situations, how you're perceiving life, how you're perceiving yourself, how you're moving forward. There's a shadow here, Virgo. There's something to be seen and acknowledged. And for God's sake, there's a need to grieve. There's a need, Virgo, to grieve. That's what's being spotlighted here with that yellow at the tear duct, okay? And that crying or release or actually tuning in to your own inner being and to feel into the reality of grief. Now, are all of you actually going to recognize the grief that needs to be grieved, like the issues that you're sad about that actually need to be released and authentically, wholly grieved? No. In fact, I think a lot of you are not going to know what the hell I'm talking about. What I think here is that there's a lot of deep stuff that's deep within the psyche of who you are that you may not even see, that you may not even recognize. You might easily be listening to my voice saying, there's nothing I need to grieve. But I guarantee you, for a lot of you, there is. In fact, for a lot of people in general right now, there's a lot to grieve, okay? And a lot of people have been taught, the modern human has been taught and indoctrinated into a system of shut down the emotions. The emotions are futile, they're inconsistent, they go this way and that way, but please know that your emotional functionality is inherently a functional system, and it must be honored as such, and it must be allowed to process. And you need to listen to it. What is it speaking to you about? How are the emotional responses telling you about your belief systems that's driving the emotional responses? So there's a need to grieve, Virgo. Now, what came second was, or what came after the eye and then the tear duct, was this red V with the extension on the bridge of the nose. Now, there's a couple things here. Red is the warrior. Red is the color of Mars. Red is the color of the first chakra. Red is the color of survival and vital life force energy and passion and anger and rage and all kinds of things with regards to reaction. Mars and red can be angry reaction that's very much by default. It's not mindful. It's not been contemplated. It's just reactionary. But certainly what I get here is the warrior. That's what I'm getting. And what I get, and we certainly get that with the red kind of warrior patch or mark underneath the eye, right? Like you're prepared for battle. This is what I get. And you can see it in the expression of the eye, Virgo, that you're ready for battle. You're ready to move forward with something in a tearless way, in a way that might even not be properly grieving. So thus, the red might be overly imbalanced for some of you. Please take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but also please let it in as well. Because for some of you, you will be able to see and recognize there is a bit of an imbalance here. Anger is not a negative thing. Anger is part of the natural emotional substrate about how humans engage with this world. Anger has a function. And there are things about the current status of the systems of this world at large that are naturally evoking anger in many people. And that's not to be shamed. But what is to be understood about anger is that you can take it to a place of imbalance, and that can lead somebody to be numbed out, cold. It can lead somebody to be numbed out, cold, almost like zombified. Okay? Now, is that the same intensity for all of you? Of course not. Is that really the narrative for each and every one of you? Well, not really, but there's probably nuances here that are speaking to you, okay? Because we're talking about a general evolutionary process here for the archetype of Virgo. So anyway, we have the warrior mark under the eye, underlining that eye, which is looking out with this kind of stilled and determined way of operating, that I will move forward despite whatever whatever's going on for me. But the thing is, the red is also repeated on that bridge of the nose, and it starts with the Y, right? So the kind of the intersection of these two pathways underneath the V of Virgo. Underneath the V of Virgo, there's another V, but the V ends up being extended down the bridge of the nose. And the point is that there's an underlining of the V here in red, which is, again, the warrior of Virgo. And the fact is that it transits down the bridge of the nose, which is this frontmost part of your face to the world. It is your ego, right? So there's something about the warrior presenting outwardly this month. Now, there can be benefit to doing that, to stepping into your own inner warrior, right? But there can also be imbalance with it. So inherently there's a discernment process with Virgo, is about being holistically incorporating, about being emotionally connected, about feeling into the anger and acting in a balanced way to the action that's being, which is being catalyzed by the anger. Taking responsible action and doing your part to address the thing that is unjust in the world, to address the thing that feels out of alignment, okay? So in other words, the thing that you're angry about, it does need to be addressed, but you certainly need to address it in your own mind, in your own world, in your own wound set. Because the trigger that's triggering you outside, whatever's going on out in the world, if it triggers you, it's your own narrative. You connect with it. You resonate with that injustice that's happening out there with the other person, or the other person doing this to you. You have to do the self-inquiry. It comes down to understanding that every single thing is a mirror. And if you're triggered by something, then it's a wound within yourself. So there's always inner work to do. Just being human, there's always inner work to do. Everything is naturally a reflection, especially if we're triggered, because there's a wound story there. So for you, there is anger and rage. You're moving forward resolutely in a way that it is even a bit cold, but it's certainly shadowed. There's a shadowed realm of wounding there that's preventing some tears that need to cry, okay? Now, let's go to the cat. So the cat here certainly was active during this process for you. He was crying. Okay, so my cat, first of all, my cat is an orange cat. His name is Dragon. And he was kind of crying and moaning during the whole time I was doing this reading for you. So cats are symbolic of flexibility and self-care. Cats are psychically attuned. They're intuitive. They can see into the other realms, let's call it. They can certainly see energies and spirits and entities. So there's this psychic capacity. Cats are very smart, but they're very independent. Okay, they're doing their own thing, and they take care of themselves. They sleep a lot, they bathe a lot, they take the time they need and the space they need. They're aloof, right? So there's something here about cat crying, meaning for the archetype of Virgo, cat is crying. Now, cat is also things like, so cat is self-care, but cat is also flexibility and adaptability, dear Virgo. So there's something here about the crying cat not being able to be adaptable, not being able to be flexible, not being able to attend to the self-care. The fact is that there's something here that's activated for you this month. Now, keep in mind, what we're talking about for you is this is the month that is activated by the Virgo new moon, which we're going to talk about in the astrology in a minute. But this is very keenly tied to your process coming through the art, meaning that there's an aspect of you that might be overly self-critical, overly harsh, overly, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not thinking of the word. Like you need to get back at someone, that there's and again, I apologize, I'm kind of blanking on my language here, but like you're needing to retaliate So there's an energy here for some of you where you're really feeling into a projection energy, like you're projecting all of this internal self-critic outwardly, and thus you might be feeling a lot of projected criticism of the other. Okay, so again, we're going to talk more in the astrology section, but the thing with Cat is Cat wants to take care of himself or herself. Cat wants to bathe and sleep and rest and go outside and investigate and learn. The other thing with this orange across the eyebrows and then the orange up through the third eye of the cat is very interesting. Orange is about learning, education, curiosity. It's about expansion. It's also about a quickening. There's some quick movement energy there. What this is indicating, and even if you look at the eyes of the cat, the cat's eyes are grumpy, and this goes along with the crying cat, right? Sick, restless, and crying. So there's an aspect here that's creating a grumpiness for this particular imagery here. And ultimately what came through was the orange, this orange kind of reverse T, the line down and the line across. And that's indicating that to aid the vision, to aid the eyes, to aid your perception, you need to learn, you need to expand. There's more to understand. There's more to know, Virgo. Okay? So it's not all about how you're projecting your reality out on the scenario, on life, or the other. This is for you to see. There's a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of energy of self-criticism that's naturally activated and is a growth edge, but there's more for you to understand here, okay? So this is about your identity growing and expanding, your vision, your perception, and allowing the wounds to be felt, accessed, and released. Release via water. I mean, even the eye is like this teal blue, you know? This kind of turquoise blue in between the green of the heart chakra and the blue of the fifth throat chakra. This is about heartfelt feeling communication. That's the color of this eye, teal, right between heart and throat. So there's a backup here happening, okay? The other thing too, as I mentioned at the beginning, Virgo with the small o, when I first wrote it out on the sheet, that small o ended up being the light point in the black iris of the eye, or in the black pupil of the eye. So try to follow me, Virgo, because this is important. That small o of Virgo is a holistic way of operating. It's a circle, it's a sphere, okay? So Virgo O, this is whole, holistic, holistically seen. Well, guess what? In the middle of that black pupil is the white O. It stayed white. There's still a highlight there. And what that's indicating is when you see holistically, when you understand holistically, when I understand myself as a Virgo holistically, when I understand you, the other, holistically, that's where the light comes in. That's going to ease up this whole process of shadow in the whites of the eye. That's going to allow the process of proper grieving of the wound story that you hold in your psyche. We all hold wound story. Every single one of us does. So it's important that you honor that and don't deny it. Don't analyze it out. Feel into it. You're ruled by Mercury, so the mind can spin and you can create a whole lot of cognitive dissonance trying to reason away your feelings, but no, that's not your growth here. Your growth here is to feel and grieve, okay? And watch the warrior approach. You know, you don't know everything and you don't need to push so hard, all right? Now, there is a restlessness and there is a sickness. So there might be some health issues like a cold or something coming up within the physical body system for you this month. And there's certainly this kind of crying, restless anxiety aspect to the eyes, the perception, and the mind, the third eye, that's calling for this orange educative process. All right, sweeties. So let's take a look now at the divinatory message that came through for you. I did this out in nature last week for the signs, and it was a fantastic process. You received excitement lines. Don't get caught in routines. Now, this is fantastic, right? Because, you know, Virgo rules the routines of our physical day. the routines of our daily process, the routines of our health, our day-to-day work, how we serve or don't serve our community or ourselves in our daily routines. So daily routines are definitely a part of your narrative. And so this message is really beautiful because this message here, Excitement Lines, is your growth edge. Now, this is a palmistry deck by Cindy Solano. So I'm going to read this from her. For your month ahead, your growth and maturity, Virgo, is this. If you find that your life is not very exciting, it may be time for you to change your routine. Get up earlier or later than you usually do. If you normally set an alarm clock, don't set it for a day and see how long you need to sleep. Eat something you've never tried before. Call a friend or relative you haven't spoken with in a while. Try an outdoor activity or go dancing. Stay up late or look at the stars or the moon. Life is more interesting and opens up your mind and spirit when you change things up. Now, why is this so hyper appropriate for you? Well, because of that orange that came across the cat's face, the forehead. Very important this. You are to expand your reality, create new synaptic connections in your brain. Again, you are Mercury ruled. So there's something that's a bit dead this month that you're needing to purify, let things flow. There's a stagnation, sweeties. Okay. Now let's take a look now at your astrology. Now, you're looking at the chart here, right? This was pulled from astro.com, all right? But you're going to notice that the glyphs on the perimeter of the chart and the planets inside the chart are shown upside down, okay? So just ignore that. This is just my particular chart that I'm using for this analysis process. The meanings are the same, but just, ignore the upside down glyphs, all right? Now, what we're doing here, when we're looking at any month ahead, we want to look at the new moon cycle. And the new moon is your new moon. This was a Virgo new moon cycle that began on the 31st of August and is infiltrating the energetic signature of the month of September. You can see that the predominance of energy, of course, the moon was there as well at the new moon, but we have the sun, the moon, we have Mars, we have Venus, we have Mercury. I mean, all of these energies here in Virgo, right? Now, for you, this is in your first house of identity. This is in your first house of energy. This is a Mars-ruled house. Now, in your particular chart, this is Mercury ruled because you're ruled by Mercury. But the first house intrinsically is the house of the self, the house of the physical body, the house of your vital life force energy, and it's traditionally ruled by Mars in the natural zodiac wheel. So we have a Mars energy that is activated as your identity. Now, because the first house is also the house of the physical body, there can also be some fire in the body system. So I wonder if some of you are going to have some inflammation issues in the body. Keep in mind, the art with the cat came up with sick and restless. So could it be that there's actually some illness coming through because of inflammatory Mars-related issues here, especially if there's a backup of emotions that's not being acknowledged and released, right? Now, Virgo, if we look at the opposition point to that stellium of planets in your first house, we have these oppositions to Neptune and Black Moon Lilith, and they're conjunct. So what this can look like is fantasy and delusion when it comes to not being valued by the other, not being valued by our relationship partner, not being valued by our friend, not being valued by our boss, not being valued by our client, not being valued by the other, okay? So there's a wounding here, sweeties, with relationships, okay? You're feeling ignored. And this is really prompting a lot of this high level of self-criticism. First house stellium of planets in Virgo, opposed Lilith and Neptune. So you're projecting what's at issue here, and what's at growth for you is there's a lot of emphasis on self criticism and self-flagellation. You're putting a lot of onus on yourself to get things done, to take care of business, to contend with health issues and business issues and whatever it is that you need to take care of in your day-to-day logistical reality. But in the meantime, as that's happening, you're having the experience of a fantasy of not feeling valued, Lilith, in the 7th house, relationships. And it's connected into that Neptunian function, which can lead into delusion and confusion. So you have to understand that if you're doing a whole lot of projecting out to the other of anger out there because the person is not attending to me, they're not paying attention to me, they're not valuing me, I'm erased by the other person, I'm dissolved by the other person. You have to understand this is your own story this month. This is your own narrative. Use it as a reflection and a mirror to deal with your own internal woundings and to access that. By the way, via an in-depth natal analysis, please go to my website, read testimonials, order it, get it. It's a foundational tool. For anyone who has not had an in-depth natal analysis done, get one. It's your story, it's your blueprint. You have to understand your natal wounds and what gets triggered naturally and what the growth arc is with those woundings, okay? Ease, peace, and freedom comes from knowing that stuff, all right? The other thing we have here, Virgo, is there's a square formation from that stellium of planet in Virgo down to upside, it's showing upside down, but we have Jupiter down in your 4th house in Sagittarius. So Jupiter in 4th house, 4th house is, aligned with the sign of Cancer and its ruling planet, the moon. So when we're talking about Jupiter in the 4th house, there's a couple of things at play here. One, there can be an enlarging experience or an expanding experience of your feeling body, of your emotional body. For you, naturally, in your archetypal chart, the 1st house or the ascendant does square the IC, which is connected to Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. So for you, there's like your perception lens is connected to a deep desire to travel, to learn, to expand yourself through teachers, through belief systems, through traveling, through new cultures, through new experiences. For you, at your root, there's a desire for that. It's a part of your makeup. It's a part of who you are. At this particular time, there's Jupiter in its home sign of Sagittarius. So there's this enlarging desire maybe to expand yourself, to expand your horizons, to change your home, to travel overseas, to live somewhere else. Right? So for you specifically, with all of this planetary energy in your 1st house of who you are, squaring your home sector of Jupiter, a lot of you might have an impetus to desire to move or relocate, certainly to travel. Certainly you're dreaming of something else, something different, okay, for yourself, some new experience that you feel is going to expand you. Okay. Now, you also have a trine from that stellium in Virgo down to the 5th house where Pluto, South Node, and Saturn are all living. Now, for you, kind of a natural process for you inherently is Saturn is ruling your 5th house of play, joy, love, individuation, confidence. Okay. So the trine that you have from all of those planets in the 1st house down to this major natural energy of total and complete destruction and reemergence of a new reality, Pluto, South Node, Saturn. Your 5th house is being completely reworked, and it has been for a while. So for you, and keep in mind, this month of September, the South Node is tightly conjuncted to Saturn, which has been very intense for all of us. For you, you're experiencing an intensity, a rigidity, a dogmatism even, when it comes to issues of love, play, and joy. And for you, Saturn naturally rules that house. So there is a bit of a containment and a seriousness that you bring to the table when it comes to having fun, releasing, like releasing, okay? So that's part of, again, the construct of the archetype of Virgo. But it's critically important that you realize that Pluto going through that house, along with the current dogmatic kind of rigid orientation that the South Node Saturn conjunction has been activating within you, there's more of a need to break, to let go of past patterns, to let go of being too serious, to let go of having too much judgment around play and ease. There's function, dear Virgo, in play. This is a growth edge for you. You're here to learn that, okay? Life is not all about work. No, that's a lot of your orientation, but please know, intrinsically there's a growth edge where you must learn to allow play, to allow release, to open up, to be more spontaneous, to be less scheduled, etc., etc. The thing is, this trine from those planets in Virgo down to the deep and utter transformation of old patterns with regards to fifth house matters, there's benefic energy flowing. There's a harmonic energy flowing. There is potential this month for you to release, for you to break, for you to open up, okay? To let go of schedules, of routines, of work, consistent, unrelenting. It's part of that eye that we were looking at in the art. It's moving forward, but for what? For what, Virgo? Okay? Now there's another trine activated here. You can see the grand trine that we have here. Virgo trining Uranus up in Taurus in the 9th house, trining that stellium of transformational energy happening in your 5th house. This grand earth trine is indicating that literally your identity as a Virgo 1st house is altering. It's changing. And there's a potential with that Uranus connected by trine to that grand earth trine in this month of September, that indeed spontaneous new belief systems can emerge. Spontaneous release of old woundings that were living in your belief structure can emerge. If you open up, if you're willing, in fact, even if you just decide, it's all really ultimately about a decision. If you decide I am opening, you will. If you unconsciously or consciously decide you're not opening, you won't. So it's, what is the decision? Deep decision, unconsciously held decision, at the cellular structure decision. Okay? Important this, all right? So for you, there is great potential for deep change when it comes to allowing fun, play, new thought, new expansion, new opportunity, by the way, for travel. That's the other thing with this Jupiter in your 4th and Uranus in your 9th. There's definitely opportunity for spontaneous travel, meeting people from other countries, connecting with people, learning and expanding yourself through new learnings, new teaching, new experiences, new travel, long-term or short-term. Okay? So there's much more to say. I'll have much more coming forward in the October scope for you. Virgo, lots of sales going on this month, including the natal analysis. So I encourage you to look at the 2020 course that's coming up. I encourage you, all of you that don't know your natal blueprint, understand it, know it. It's foundational. You have to, it's a key. It's the key to your freedom, for God's sake. So look into that. Lots of other sales as well. For those interested in weekly streams, I have $11 membership. You can find that information below. So, until the next scope, Virgo, I send you much love. Bye-bye.